Hello and welcome back to the channel. Unfortunately for you, dear viewers, you have to look at my face today. It's not in a helmet, or it will be in a bit, but there is some good news. We're joined by the Triumph Scrambler 1200XE, and I just want to answer a simple question. Is it as good to ride as it is to look at? Because it's quite pretty. Now, what is the Triumph Scrambler 1200XE? It's quite simple, really. It's a retro-looking thing with proper off-road suspension and bits. So if you want to, you can take it, well, off-road while still looking retro and cool. And I think it's meant to appeal to your inner Steve McQueen Great Escape thing. Hence the fact that Guy Martin used one of these to recreate Steve McQueen's jump earlier in 2020. Check it out if you've not seen it. It was a Channel 4 documentary. I think it's worth watching. But anyway, you, probably riding on the road or green lanes, need to know the following things. It's got 1200cc parallel twin motor that's also seen the Thruxton and other things, 90 horsepower, 116 newton meters of torque from just 3,950 RPM. You've got 250 mil of suspension travel, which is a lot at the front and the back, so you can jump over rocks and things off-road if you're going to be doing that. And it weighs about 209 kilograms before you put any fuel in it. It's got a 16-litre tank, so what's that? 220-ish kilograms once you've added fluids. So it's not a lightweight, it's a retro thing, but it's quite good. Spoiler. So that I don't completely bore you to death, I'm going to grab the camera and show you some of the things about the Scrambler 1200XE that are good and bad, because this is a review. There are some bad things. Not terrible, just, you know, things to consider if you're going to spend £12,000 on one of these. £12,000? What's the exact price, Tim, I hear you ask? £12,300. Now we're going to start at the front, and I'm going to point out some of the things that make the 1200XE different to the XC. I wish they had chosen different letters that were easier to pronounce differently, but I'm from Essex, so forgive me. On the XE, this one, you've got a fully adjustable Showa fork with 250 mil of travel and Brembo M50 monoblock brake calipers. It's basically sports bike tech, isn't it, from 5 years ago, and they do work really, really well. But they do have to deal with that 250 mil of front fork travel before they really start working, but you knew that, and we'll come to that in a bit when I get onto the riding impressions. You've got Metzler slightly off-roady tyres. I'll put the actual tyre name in up here because I've forgotten and I can't look down there now without looking like an idiot. They're okay, they clog up with mud really easily off-road, so they're not ideal. You'd want to stick knobblies on it if you're going to do proper green laning in this kind of weather. On road, they're fine. The rear squirms a bit under hard acceleration out second gear corners, but it's kind of fun and you've got traction control to save you. Should we go to the back? Now, in the middle of the bike, the big news is that 1200cc parallel twin with the 270-degree firing angle, which just gives it a more potato-y feel. I'm going to talk about the engine performance out on the road, so let's gloss over that. This bike, has to be said, has about 1,800 quid worth of accessories on it. It's some kind of package that I've forgotten the name of and I've since lost it on the Triumph website. But it adds all sorts of things, such as a headlight protector, that bash guard down there, a radiator guard, all sorts of bits. There's an off-roady brace for handlebars up here. There's an arrow can, which is just a slip-on. That front mud guard, that's usually down close to the front tyre, but now it's an aluminium one that's up here. Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of stuff for 1,800 quid. But yeah, this is not a standard bike. This is about 1,400 quid, the one that you can see. What else do you need to know? These LED indicators are also an option, and that's the headlight protector thing that I was talking about. Realised that I spoke about it, but didn't actually show you it, which was just terrible form. Anyway, enough chat about the bike. Shall we go and ride it? I think we should. Good question, Tim. What is it like to ride? Because as you all know, there's no point buying a bike that looks nice if it rides as badly as Mother Teresa after mainlining a barrel of oysters on a girls' night out. And the good news is it's good. Triumph has this kind of way of making their bikes work well on the road, and the Scrambler 1200XE is no different. I know I've just come into a 30 limit, so it's not the best place to show you this. But the steering, start there, the steering is quite slow. I think it's probably a factor of having that massive 21-inch front wheel out there, but it's super stable. And when you turn it in, even on these vaguely ever so slightly knobbly tyres, it feels planted, and it actually gives you the confidence to press on. And when you do start riding more quickly than you think the bike will be able to cope with. It just kind of comes back for more. It's actually really good fun. You can hoon it. So yes, stable handling, slightly slow steering. Suspension wise, obviously you've got Showa forks at the front, Erling's twin piggyback shocks at the back, and yeah, it does a very good job of soaking up all the bumps and lumps in the road. You've got 250mm of wheel travel front and back, and as you'd expect, it's kind of pillowy really, but it's not vague, and the damping is actually reasonably firm given the long stroke of the suspension, which means you feel in control when you're cornering. When you tip it in, it just does exactly what you think it's going to do. It's very predictable. One downside of that long travel suspension is that yes, you've got those amazing Brembo M50 monoblock calipers up front, which are sports bike spec, let's be honest, from a couple of years ago. You do have to work through a little bit of the front suspension travel before you really get the power, but you kind of knew you were going to have that, right? You pull a lever, the forks take quite a while to compress. I could probably tune some of that out, but then it's okay. It doesn't spring back up mid-corner and hit you in the face. You can ride it quickly, and you quickly learn to kind of, you know, ride around that slightly slow steering and everything else, and you have a lot of fun with it. As for a retro bike, it handles amazingly well. I would say something like the BMW R9T, the one with the proper upside down front forks, that is a sharper thing to steer because it's got a smaller front wheel, and it's basically just an S1000R setup. That feels better than this, I would say, but that's not to diminish from, you know, how this rides. Right, let's talk about the engine. It doesn't rev very high, obviously. It's got a 7,000 RPM red line, I think you can see there, but you never need to go bothering it. Oh, that's just third gear, not even full throttle, from about 3,000 RPM. It just has so much low down stonk, and it just rips forward. And yeah, trust me, until you're doing at very illegal speeds, you'll be fine keeping up with your sports bike riding mates on this. I haven't really tried many wheelies on this, and I'm not going to because I'm a bit shit at them and I don't want to crash the bike, but it doesn't feel quite as punchy as you think it's going to feel. Don't come to this thinking, oh, 1200cc torque laden thing, it's going to be a bit scary. I've been riding in sport mode even in the wet, and it doesn't really jump up off any crests even if you try. I'm sure you clutch it up and then do dank wheelies all day long. I think if you kind of bounce it off that soft front suspension, you'll be able to get it up very easily. Whee! But yeah, I'm not a wheelie master, so I'm not going to promote that sort of antics, but I'm sure if you're into the odd stunt, it will absolutely play ball. One thing I do like is just the noise. Yeah, the arrow on this is just a slip-on, and I dare say the standard pipe probably sounds much the same. The idle almost certainly sounds the same. When you gas this, you do get a bit of a roar. It's quite nice, but I would actually be tempted to decant this, and then it would sound phenomenal because it's got that 270-degree firing angle, and it just sounds different. It's got a bit more lumpy character. It's a bit like, you know, some badly made gravy, but actually when that's a motorbike engine, that is quite a good thing. And it's just very tractable. Hate to be boring, but yeah, doesn't really matter what revs you're doing, it will pull. No quick shifter, traction control. Right, yeah, there we go, slightly broke speed limit. Back down to 50. You might have seen the little orange light flashing in that. That is the traction control. I've been riding in sport mode. You change by pressing that little button there. You have got Rider, which is the custom one. You have got Rain, which softens everything off. You have got Road, which has been customised on this bike. Sport, and Off-Road and Off-Road Pro, which I'm guessing I can't switch to at the moment because I'm moving, and obviously they will deactivate things like the rear ABS, so obviously you've got to be stopped to switch into modes and change the ABS settings. Okie dokie, right, I'm going to get up to 70 miles an hour when it's legal to in a minute and show you what it's like with motorway speeds, because, you know, full and comprehensive sort of review, yeah. I'd say my handling impressions of this are slightly tempered by the fact that the back tyre is pretty squared off on this bike. It does need a new rear. It's got loads of tread, but it's been worn down quite a bit. Okie dokie, right. Chuck it in here. Take it real easy because it's a bit greasy. Right. That's 70. It's fine, got quite a lot of wind pressure on my chest, but nothing uncomfortable. I probably would want to be sitting at 85, 90 on this. There's just nothing protecting you. But you know, what I can do is, he says, hit this button. Hey, buongiorno, cruise control. Don't know why I went Italian there. Yeah, it's got cruise control. It's got modern electronics, as we saw when I took it off-road and it looked after me. I'll put a link to that video up there. Which way? I don't know where I'm going to put it. That's probably everything you need to know about how it rides. It's been putting a smile on my face. It's, I don't know, the engine is really well suited to just, you know, arsing about on the road. It's not pulling massive wheelies everywhere, but you can make proper progress on it. And you're not held back by the chassis, you're not held back by the suspension or the brakes. So if you do want a retro bike that can ride like a modern bike, this is really good. Right, that's probably enough on how the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE rides. Back to you, lay-by Tim. Thank you, Tim. So yes, in conclusion, the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE does ride almost as good as it looks. The tyres, I would probably either go one way or the other. I'd put something a little bit more road biased on if I was going to go on the road, or knobblies if I'm actually going to properly take it off-road every Sunday when it's nice and wet and muddy outside. But yeah, it's kind of its own thing, isn't it? There's the Ducati Scrambler 1200, which does a similar thing in terms of retro looks, off-roadiness. I've not actually ridden that, so I can't tell you if that's better or worse, I'm being honest here. But yeah, this does all the things you would expect from Triumph. It's got all latest electronics to look after you. It's got loads of accessories, if that's your bag, and there's a train coming. In short, the things I really like about the Triumph Scrambler 1200 are its engine. It's got loads of character. I just want to take the cats out to get more noise out of it, because even with the Arrow slip-on, it's just a bit too quiet for me and a little bit too civilized. I think it looks fantastic. The suspension is decent, it's top quality, and it's all adjustable, so hooray. I've not fiddled with it, but you know, when you live with these bikes, you kind of want to get it set up for your weight and all that kind of jazz. Yeah, it's just a nice package, and it's a bike that you can make proper progress on. Don't think that if you buy this you're not going to be able to keep up with your mates on their sports bikes and nakeds. At road legal speeds, this will be fine. It's got so much torque from that parallel twin engine, you've just got go in every gear, and it's only when speeds start getting a little bit silly that you want more power. It's a bit expensive at £12,300, but you know, it's kind of the price of all bikes, isn't it? Today, everything is 5 figures, and it feels like a quality machine. Now, what don't I like about the Scrambler 1200? There's not an awful lot, to be honest. I've mentioned the tyres, I would swap them out one way or the other. The back of the clocks, I'm not a massive aesthetic nerd, so there's probably other little niggles that you might have noticed, but there's just nothing there, and it looks a bit unfinished and it's covered in mud. Other than that, I like it. You could stick a tail tidy on it, but then you'd probably get a back that's covered in mud after about 5 miles down the road. I would like a quick shifter and blipper. Don't think it's an option on the 1200 engine. I imagine Triumph's going to rectify that in future, but yeah, it's a nice, easy to use gearbox. It actually feels quite loose, so you can go up and down without the clutch. Kind of anyway, without knackering it too much. It's just easy to ride, easy to live with. I've waffled on long enough. I've not mentioned it's got an adjustable radial master cylinder up here. I mean, sports bike stuff again. There, review done. I would give it, on the roadie motorbike scale, an 8.5 out of 10. It's good. Right, I'm going home. Goodbye, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit my bell, all that usual stuff, and I'll be back on my Hypermotard soon enough. Actually, I think I've got another Triumph to review next, and it's not an autumn bike, it's a bit sportier, but just you wait and see. See you next time.